Hello and welcome again to One Starfish, where our mission is to help change the world one life or one starfish at a time. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share. It's how we get the word out. I always love these. We have such good interviews, such good guests. I'm excited for our guest today. We just met. Cole Davis and I met in the Arte Syndicate. He runs a company called Stone Peak Landscape and Design. He started in 2021. He just graduated from college, I guess, in 2020 from exercise science, and he was in pre-med. So we're going to get into that because that sounds interesting. Father, husband, all the things. Thanks for being on the show, Cole.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Awesome. Well, let's go into what we were just chatting about. Why did you go into pre-med first of all? It's like what was like why did you want to do that? Where did that come from, first of all?
Yeah, so pre-med was um, a mindset that I had pretty much the entire time I was in school. So from, I want to say definitely early high school on. One thing, I was a year-round athlete, mainly focused in baseball. And then high school came around, I believe it was sophomore year. I had to have Tommy John surgery. So I had elbow surgery, and then I had a great experience with that sports athlete surgeon, excuse me, and as well as the physical therapy team. And, that kind of hooked me. And I was like, these are great people. I'm an athlete. I want to do something that, helps athletes as well. So that was kind of the original mindset. And then we go into college. Um, And then I was studying for a few years, and then right before I graduated was when it turned to be 2020. Craziness happened, and then that was kind of eye-opening for me. So,
So explain, what
yeah,
do you mean by that, and what made you change, and tell us a little bit more.
yeah. So the schooling was, I don't know, I would just see little things within the schooling of like how you read lab reports or how you read studies. And I would always have these kind of like, well, why? Right, as we know now, like why are the groups so small that are reading the studies? Why is it so hard to get a publicized data group together? And these are all questions I just had but couldn't answer the whole time I was in school. 2020 comes around, and then we are immediately sent to schooling from home.
Mhm.
And in that whole, right, from the get-go, I wasn't verbal about it as I probably should have been, but I was immediately like, the surgical masks, right? As somebody who's shadowed in the operating room, somebody who's been around that kind of environment where it has to be sterile. Like the masks are not to keep you from breathing in anything,
Right.
right? I mean, kind of the joke with the masks in the operating room sometimes it's just keep you from drooling on people while you're.
Yeah, makes
So
sense.
yeah, I would immediately question that. Like that doesn't make any sense. And their cloth, right? I was just had all of these questions. And then as time went on from March to about May, things got way more political. That's when going anywhere became super a nightmare. And so that was an immediate turnoff for me. And that's just I can't put my identity in that because I don't agree with it. And then I was watching, that was when people were starting to speak out and then, going through the defamation process. It's just like I can't. That's a sinking ship and I can't jump on it.
And that's when you got out of the medical industry.
Yeah, well, I was a chemist for a little bit after I graduated, getting some laboratory work. And then that was, things just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I just had to just step away from it completely.
Hmm. And so then you got into exercise?
Not well, I've always been into exercise,
Or what
but
was it that you did? Exercise science or something like that?
yeah, so the Bachelor of Science is in exercise science, and then I have a minor in chemistry.
Okay.
Yes.
So you switched from
Uh,
pre-med with all that, and then you switched into that. And
That's what I graduated with.
oh, that's what you graduated with. Okay, you switched right
Mhm.
away then, pre-med. That wasn't 2020.
Yeah, so after I graduated, I already had the degree, and I was a chemist for a short while after graduating.
And then
And
that's when things changed.
yeah, and then I just
Gotcha.
write, I couldn't even write anything related to the health field, right? Was saturated with all of those crazy ideas and things that didn't work. So I had to step away from it completely. I got a sales job, and then that sales job led to me starting my own business.
Oh, that was fast. So you started
Mhm.
your own business and is entrepreneurship in your family or why did you decide to, start your own business and specifically in landscaping and design? Where did
Mhm.
the thought come from and just being running your own business?
I can't say the family influence was too heavy. My family specifically, um, they were all, get a good job. They pushed me towards engineering or the science field, right? Just security, all of the company benefits, all that good stuff. My grandfather, however, was an entrepreneur. He built a medical finance and billing operation that ran here in Denver, and then was very successful exiting that business and selling it off. So that's the only other instance of entrepreneurship. So nothing, in the service industry.
Okay. And then so you started the business. What were some of the obstacles that you've overcome or worked through and how did you handle them?
Yeah. The first initial kind of break into the business was maintenance. Every maintenance is there's a large pool that you can pick from as a maintenance. You're cutting people's grass. Um, you don't need any crazy liability insurance or anything like that. So that was kind of the official break into that. And then we pick up like small installation jobs from that point forward. And then kind of we've made that transition from now we don't offer maintenance at all. Now we have kind of grown. We have four or so employees, and then our only focus is stonework, hardscape, and design build.
Okay, and how did you overcome, like, what were some of the obstacles you overcame or how are overcoming, and how do you work through them?
Mhm. Well, being younger, obviously you haven't been seasoned enough to just kind of know all of the trade knowledge. So we learn new stuff every day. Every day on the job site, if you see something new, every backyard is different. So it's one of the challenges, but one of the things I really like is that you have to be really attentive, and also really hands-on in this stage, at least for us, because, missing something here or there could cause warranty issues to the home, could cause whatever you're building to fail. So it's really requires a lot of attentiveness and a lot of just soaking it in on a daily basis. Some days are heavier than others, but it's part of it. And, we also really enjoy that part.
So when you started your business, how did you get clients? I know that's a big thing. A lot of people ask, like, hey, how do I start my own business? I don't know even how to get clients. How did did you go cold call? Did you go knock on doors? What did you do to start to build a repertoire with no experience, even in the industry that's so random, to start your own business?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Well, backing up a little bit, I did have a sales job at the time it was Home Advisor. Now it's just the whole umbrella of Angie. Um, and that is service industry based. So my job as a salesperson was to reach out to people like me, say, hey, I got all these people that are wanting somebody to cut their grass. And, basically it's a lead generation thing that you pay for. So I was on two platforms like that for a while.
Okay.
We did some next door stuff. So then again, just like local word of mouth. We had some door hangers that we did too. So we
So
walk
knocked on
around
doors.
there. hmm Yeah, all lots of guerrilla marketing
What's
for
guerrilla
sure.
marketing?
Guerrilla marketing is like walking around on doors, knocking on
How many
doors.
doors would you say you knocked on?
Well, I did most of that, well, 5,000 or so,
Wow. How long
maybe.
did that take? Like that's days,
Yeah, well, that's spread out over
obviously.
yeah, a couple years. So,
Okay.
you know, we that basically any time that wasn't dedicated to being at somebody else's house, we were walking around
When you
passing out
say we,
flyers.
who's we?
Me.
Okay, you're like me, you talk in the language of we.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
you're French
Mhm.
by somewhere in there. We we. Okay, I was wondering. I was like, who's a we on
Mhm.
this? You keep saying we. I'm like, who are you
Well,
with?
we've grown substantially, and so now it's just a habit, unfortunately. So, but that's good.
Okay. So
It's
the
good. It
beginning you're by
works.
yourself. What gave you the confidence to know that it'd work? I think a lot of people, when they go to start a business, like this is exceptional, especially with no experience in like anything, and then you go out and like I wouldn't do that. That sounds scary. So like that you did that, what gave you the confidence to think that this would even work?
I actually didn't.
You didn't think it would work?
I didn't. Well, I didn't know it'd work. I think like
But
most
what gave you the
people.
confidence to even try it?
Um, I think it was just something as simple as like, hey, my grandfather had some property um some years ago, and I was, from 12 till I graduated high school, I was over there all summer long maintaining it. So, and that came from pool maintenance to lawn maintenance, painting, all the stuff that he didn't want to do, he passed it off to me. So it was a bunch of different things. So nothing really, but it was more of like, I know how to cut grass. And that was the thought. And that's pretty much what it's built it on itself since then.
And obviously not as scared of hard work. And does that come from like helping your grandpa and stuff? Because for a lot of people, they're like, I got these degrees and I got these things, and like that's
Hmm.
hard work that you're doing,
Hmm.
physically demanding hard work.
Right.
Um, you know, Obviously, is that where some of that work ethic came from? So I think your grandpa
Yeah,
was a huge part of your life.
I would attribute that a large part of it. Even though, my dad went to school and has a degree as well, but he is also kind of aligned in that mindset. My dad's built barns before.
Okay.
When I was a very young child, we had a house with horses and stuff. So he's built barns, he's built, garages.
So you saw the work
He's the
ethic.
one, he's the one who taught me you never pay for a mechanic. He's
Hey.
so.
Okay, so yeah. And I want parents listening to this, like, when you have kids, this is so cool because I'm just thinking of like kids and obviously like, your parents, your dad especially sounds like your dad and your grandpa were huge influences in where you're going and what you're doing. Where you grew belief was because they made you work. And you also saw them work, hard and like the results were there. They obviously had a relatively good life. You were like, this is something that I could probably copy and be part of subconsciously.
Mhm.
Um, Probably wasn't as conscious as, most people are like, oh, consciously, I have no idea. But subconsciously, that's what really influences us. So if you're a parent, you're listening to this and your kids are working really hard, that's a good thing.
Mhm.
Make them work hard. I was talking to one
Mhm.
of my agents yesterday and their lawn needs a mowing, and she's like a independent mom of three. I'm like, get your son to mow it. She's like, yeah, he should. I'm like, he should. Like in my book, he would. Like and
Oh
he's
yeah.
9. I'm like, he's doing it. Like he can mow the lawn. I remember doing
Right.
that stuff.
Hmm.
And that's so cool because I used to think, oh man, I just go mow lawns too. If I never got to the point where I was like struggling for money, but I was like, well, if I ever was, I'll just go mow lawns. Like I'll just go knock on doors and mow lawns. So it makes total sense. Like, um, yeah, why not do that as a career, make it a business? That's so cool. And as you built it, were there a lot of people? Sounds like your dad and your grandpa at least were relatively supportive. Was there anyone in your life that kind of wasn't? And how did you handle that if there was?
Um, yes, so both of them have been definitely the biggest, like, do it, you can do it since day
Good.
one. And that was great to have. There were some family members that, again, because my family's just not a lot of entrepreneur experience,
Mhm.
kind of the school. high school, college, career pathway. And there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that by any
No, you
means.
started out that way, and then you just
Yeah,
threw it all like, shoo.
yeah, don't need this anymore. Um, so that was just a lot of like, there was a lot of security questions, right? Like, what are you going to do for insurance?
Hmm.
What are you going to do for doctor's appointments, right? What are you going to do for, right? You don't get a steady paycheck, all this stuff.
Hmm.
So there was a lot of that. And it was just more of like, I'm just going to figure it out, right? And that's something I've had to adapt to. Even from day one, I was not 100% confident, right? I would go home and I would think about that and it would beat me up and I had to just learn to let it go.
And how
Like
did you
it,
learn that? Like, what are some tips that maybe you use to help let it go that someone that's listening to this could use?
And well, I've heard Andy talk about it, and there's been a couple questions on his podcast that have kind of alluded to this, but it's the expectation, right? I did this, so I expect it to work. I'm gonna do
You do
everything
the
the same
hard
way.
work.
And I'm gonna expect it to work because of everything that I'm doing on the back end, not just showing up and cutting somebody's grass, but everything else behind. And also, it was just like the little things, right? The new clients, right? The
Mhm.
price increases, and then nobody goes away, right? You keep most of your people, right? And it's like, okay, there's these little things like, oh, it's kind of working, it's kind of working, kind of working. And then we venture into something else, like, hey, let's try to get into water features. Let's try to get a water feature. And then we get two water features, like, okay, then maybe we keep doing this, and we just keep doing this. So it's just these little like hints, like you're on the right path. And I think it's just coming down to like being attentive and wanting to soak it all in.
Hmm. That's really cool. I like that. So what's your vision for your company? What's your 5 year, 10 year vision? Where are you going with it?
When I started, I said I want to be the Amazon of landscaping, at least here in Colorado. And I
Okay.
still have that vision. We don't offer maintenance right now. I think that's something that we implement further down the road when we can kind of bring in the people that are experienced in that realm.
Mhm.
But again, I want that SP everywhere. We just changed over our name, so our business name, excuse me.
Mhm.
So to hopefully kind of stand out, we have a new logo. It's a little bit more tight, um,
Cool.
more modern, ideally more recognizable. So again, I want the SP orange and black everywhere you can see it.
I like that. That's big, big goals. That's good.
Mhm,
It's always a good thing. On the days you don't feel like getting up, you back up to some of those. I'm sure there were days you didn't feel like going knocking on doors and all that stuff. What made you
mhm,
do it anyway? Like, I think a lot of people struggle with the actual work of the business, on the days they don't quote feel like it. So how do you do things when you don't feel like it?
mhm. I think it just comes down to, nobody else is going to do it for you. Like when you make that transition, the hard recognition is like nobody else is here. There's no HR to go to and say, hey, where's my paycheck? You can't go to your neighbor's house and say, hey, I can't make rent. Can you pay me? So
Real some money.
it, it's just so again, I I don't and I would never try anything like that. So it comes down to like it has to happen. Like if it doesn't happen, like right, you don't get to pay rent. You don't get to go grocery shopping. So again, I was just like it's the stakes that I always keep myself aware of.
Yeah.
And also just the commitment, right? Like this was the leap, and now you just got to go full steam ahead, keep your head down.
Cool. I love that. That's awesome. Um, in wrapping up, I always ask three final questions and then anything we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful for our listeners. Number one final question is if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you could say that could help them find it?
I would just say look within. There's a lot of external influences, a lot of look at this shiny thing I got over here. kind of mentality. And I think you got to look at what makes you happy.
Good, I like that. Second question, what's a favorite quote and why?
My favorite quote is Jim Rohn. I'm going to butcher it. It is success is doing what the failures won't do.
I like that one. That's good.
Mhm.
And third and final question, what's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
I would say either that Jim Rohn quote or I gave it my all.
Hmm, both of those are good. That's awesome. Are you
Mhm.
running into some in the coffee shop and they're like, wow, that's awesome. Went from like medical to like chemistry to like rocks.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
Building a business, a lot more than rocks, I know that, but simplifying it, pretty crazy. It's a really cool story. What is something that we didn't touch on today that you think would be really impactful for our listeners?
One thing that I am currently trying to balance is just like turning it off at home.
Hmm.
And that's something that I'm playing with, right? Because we're early on, there's a lot of days that that can't happen.
Mhm.
But on the days that it can happen, I need to be present, turn it off, put it down, and just be at home. Because then not only do you perform better for your family, but you perform better the next day for your business.
Cool. Like that. Turning off at home. And what are you finding that's working?
Just like being like cold turkey.
Take the turn off your phone.
All the tablets, right? The business tablet, the phones in a backpack in a different room.
Backpack, different room. Good. That's very tangible. I love it. Awesome, guys. Let's go out there. Let's share. Let's go out there and help one person or one starfish at a time. If we can help one starfish or one person at a time together, we can change the world. Thanks for being on, Cole.
Thanks for having me.